cabinet has decided that South Africa's diplomats in Israel will be recalled for further consultations on the situation in Gaza. The minister in the Presidency, Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, made the announcement in Pretoria when she briefed the media on outcomes of last week's cabinet meeting. Ntshavheni says Pretoria is disappointed with Israel's continued bombing of schools and clinics in Gaza and the closure of humanitarian passages.
A genocide under the watch of the international community cannot be tolerated. Another Holocaust in the history of humankind is not acceptable. And the South African government has decided to withdraw all its diplomats in Tel Aviv for consultation. Cabinet has also noted the continuing disparaging remarks of the Israeli ambassador to South Africa about those who are opposing the atrocities and the genocide of the Israeli government. This is despite the condemnation by the previous ambassadors of Israel to South Africa, who were clear that the acts of the Israeli government are a repeat of apartheid and not different to the apartheid antics. The position of the ambassador of Israel in South Africa is becoming very untenable. Cabinet has decided to instruct DECO to take necessary measures within the diplomatic channels and protocols to deal with the conduct of the ambassador of Israel to South Africa.
All right, let's bring senior researcher at Fellow Africa-Asia Dialogues, Thembisa Fakude, to unpack these developing news. Thembisa, good afternoon, and thank you for your time with us here on the SABC.
Thanks for having me.
Let's get your reaction to South Africa's decision to withdraw its ambassador to Israel, and really, was it a step in the right direction as we speak?
I think it was a step towards the right direction. It's about time. Many people are calling for this. It's unfortunate, of course, that South Africa was not the first to do this. Bolivia has already done it, and other countries in Latin America is pulling their ambassadors. South Africa has not had an ambassador in Israel for a very long time, but it's I think a step towards the right direction that the senior diplomats from the embassy in Tel Aviv were pulled back to South Africa for consultation with the government.
Given the intensified calls for action, what else should South Africa be doing, in your opinion, beyond recalling the ambassador and downgrading the South African embassy in Israel?
I think we heard what the minister said there in terms of their dissatisfaction and complaints about the ambassador of Israel to South Africa. I think the next move will be to expel the ambassador of Israel from the country, and this is likely to happen, given that there is a level of complaints from the ambassador of Israel to South Africa, and I think that's what South Africa is looking at. And I think now they're building up their ammunition and reason why the ambassador of Israel should be expelled from this country.
So as we await more developments in relation to the situation at hand, I wonder if you could also help us understand the geopolitical realities that are going to be faced by the party, perhaps even following AGOA.
Well, I don't think there's going to be any. I mean, these are two separate issues. Okay. All parties are under pressure in this regard, including the Americans. They're also under pressure to stop the conflict that's currently taking place, mainly from the Israeli continual bombardment and killing of children and women and children in Gaza. So South Africa is on the right side at this moment, and I think they are likely to get a lot of support from various countries around the world in this regard. So we will have to wait and see what the next move. Many people will argue that this has taken too long for South Africa. It should have been much, much more quicker, because South Africa was one of the very first countries to condemn Israel for its atrocities and genocide that we are watching at the moment and unfolding within our eyes. And one would have expected that they would have moved much more quicker than some of the countries, including Bolivia, who have since expelled the ambassadors from Israel.
No, absolutely. And as calls intensify, I think just help us understand as well in terms of travel, what the implications of this might be on both sides in terms of stable relations. And even back home, when we look at the DA, which is an opposition party in South Africa, their decision to remove Galeb Kachalia from its shadow cabinet, the opposition obviously not singing the same from the same hymn sheet. Walk us through what's also unfolding on that front, including in terms of dynamics.
Well, I don't think there's going to be. South Africa has been very clear way before this conflict in terms of its position of supporting the Palestinian struggle. So it's nothing new, and it doesn't come as unexpected that South Africa will take such a drastic move towards Israel. So the relations will remain as they were. The business between Israel and South Africa remains one of the biggest. Israel remains one of the biggest trading partner in Africa with South Africa. So that is going to continue. And I think they are unlikely to rescind any bilaterals or multilaterals, particularly regarding the travel between South Africans and Israelis coming to this country. But I think it's important that the messaging from South Africa is very clear. And as I've said earlier on, one, of course, expect now that they've moved towards bringing their diplomats back to South Africa. The next move will be, after getting the reports that they expect is to expel the ambassador of Israel from South Africa back into Tel Aviv. And I think that's likely to happen very soon.
Thembisa, let me wrap up this conversation just very quickly. We've seen the comments also made by Israel's Jerusalem Affairs and Heritage Minister, who said that dropping a nuclear bomb in Gaza remains an option. What do you make of these comments? What does it say about Israel, the war, capabilities, and even a possibility that Israel has nuclear weapons that they've not declared? Perhaps you could bring us into your confidence on that front?
Well, it's amazing that the world kept quiet when Vladimir Putin indicated, not so direct, that Russia could resort into using a nuclear weapon should they be pushed to do so, whilst during the ongoing conflict with Ukraine, there was global criticism and condemnation of Vladimir Putin. One would expect, of course, that the world would do the same currently with Israel, but we don't see hear many noises coming from different parts of the world. Israel continues to do as it pleases in terms of violation of basic rights, humanitarian agencies that Palestinians are entitled to, and all the things that we'll expect a democratic government to be doing. They are totally against that. Now they're threatening the world, because it's not only going to be Gaza in this regard. They're threatening the world and the people of Gaza with nuclear weapons, and all we're hearing is nothing. Actually, it's silence is deafening in this regard from the normal, usual quarters that will ordinarily comment on such matters. So we're facing a very, very serious time, and I hope that the South African government, being one of the very few that has criticized Israel, will continue doing so and amplify this issue and take this issue to the United Nations Security Council and the AU, and force the EU to take a position against Israel. And hopefully you might just see other countries in Africa following suit.
Thembisa, let's leave that conversation there for now. Thank you for your time with us here on the SABC. Thembisa Fakude, unpacking the latest developments. Of course, Senior Research Fellow at Africa-Asia Dialogues, weighing in on the matter. We know that South Africa has recalled its ambassador, downgraded its embassy in Israel, and we're obviously monitoring developments from here on too.